Here he comes.
Well, James.
Hey guys, welcome to BBR. No, James, we cannot hear you now.
We will all talk like and sound like that robot on Battlestar Galactica. That's exactly.
So everybody knows that now that we're live, James is a hot mess tonight. Mr. Technology, got to give it to him a little bit. No, we can't hear you. You're a mime right now, James. So tonight's episode, we have Nikki Lee on. It's going to talk a little bit about the strategy she's been doing the last couple of coaching classes on. And with that, while we're waiting for James, Nikki, I'm going to leave the floor to you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to talk to everyone tonight. How's everyone doing this evening on Facebook? And I hope you guys are listening and doing okay. And we're joined tonight by Chris Peden. He's my trusted CPA, and I adore him. So I think that, a good CPA goes a really, really long way. So, right, Chris? Thank you so much for always taking such care of us. And anyway, I wanted to talk. I wanted to have Chris just join us. We could have Chris take over and join. It leaves off, but we wanted to talk a little bit. What's wrong?
No, okay? You broke up a little bit, Nikki. Just checking the internet connection.
Oh, okay. Okay. Let me make sure. Let me make sure my internet connection is okay. Yeah, I'm on the right one.
Okay, good.
Okay, good.
Yep.
I figured I'd. Okay. Well, we're joined tonight with Chris Peden because he's a trusted CPA for me, and I just thought that since we're going to be talking about pricing and income and all of those kind of things, and tax season, everyone just survived tax season a little bit, right? I don't know if you guys have all taken care of that, but we really bottled everything up into this little pack that I have never felt more clear about helping salon owners with thinking about things in a certain way. I'm always looking for the right perspective, because for me, as an educator or guide or teacher or coach or mentor, whatever role that is, leader, I just want to be as clear and concise as possible to give you guys the nuggets that you need as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Everyone has such busy lives, and I want to be really respectful of that. And I'm so appreciative of you guys being 8 p.m. on a Monday night. Yeah. So I'm hoping, it says here, Restream just said it's having a problem. So you tell me if it shuts down, okay? Just raise your hand and tell me if it shuts down, okay? Restream is saying it's trying to log me back in. So I don't know if I'm getting through or not.
Yeah, Nikki, you're live still. You're good.
Okay, good. So the last few times we've been focusing on things that I think are very dedicated to what we call the Salon HR series, or Salon HR. It's really one of our missions this year is to help salon owners formulate and departmentalize their salon into what we call an HR within an HR system. So in HR, what are the components of HR? HR stands for human resource. And I think that given the pandemic and everyone's struggle with losing people, shifting people, the movements of every single person in there, I think that there needs to be a focus of all things that can grow people inside of your salon. And
I think we lost Nikki.
To do with HR, because if you don't have a level system in your pricing, you really can't successfully grow people's career outside of what they normally can earn. We all know that the reason people work is because they want to make money. Not only that, I know there's other components like social aspects and, artistry and fulfillment of career paths and all of those kind of things. But at the end of the day, we all get up and go to work because we want to make money, and we want to make good money for what we do. And we want to have the options to grow. And I think that if we recognize that, you guys have heard me say this multiple times, I want business owners to just recognize that everything they do needs to be towards how will they grow people inside of their company. And so today's class was really about pricing and the 10 components of what how you can create pricing that creates scalability inside of your company. So I wanted to share with you just what those components are, if you guys are okay with that. Yeah. And then Chris, please just throw yourself in there when you have anything that, as an accountant perspective, that you think speaks to the financial success of the company. And I know, James, you would probably love to jump in, but you know, you're sounding like Cybertron. But type in, you can type in, right? So first of all, it's not about emotion. I want to remove the emotion out of it. I know Derek and James and Andrew talk about this all day long. It's there. And so pricing is not about emotion. Pricing is not about feelings. Pricing isn't about, you know, fear. It's not about all of those kinds of things. There are very negative emotions that we put along with it. And I think we replace the lack of knowledge or understanding with fear or emotion. So one of the best ways to eliminate fear and restlessness and worry and concern and emotion that might not be positive or correct is just to empower ourselves with the right thinking. One of the things I shared today in class that I thought was a very powerful tool was we sometimes graph our employees' growth financially on just a graph, just like a visual graph. And it just shows them, like, for example, if they started in 2010 up to current year of 2022, if they've been with us 12 years, we graph each single year and we look at what their what their income was for every up to a certain amount. So then on this side of the graph is income level. And on the bottom, it's the years and the tenure they're with us. And just a simple exercise like that can really show everyone, and it shows the team that it's a very structural business thought process. And we try to align it with our price increases as well. So if you track what your price increases are, you can actually track it right along with the growth of people's career income. And I think that that's just so important to do. And that visual aid when we're doing sessions with our team or when we're using that, it's so powerful because it really does just remove the emotion out of it. Another thing we talked about in class today was doing a demographic study and understanding what the average median household income is in your area. Of course, there's many components to a demographic study that are very successful and can help show your team something, but you're really doing it not just for your own understanding, but you're doing it to show with your team. One of the things that's eye-opening for a lot of people is that when I do a demographic study for somebody and I look at the average median household income in one region that a salon would be located in, and we see that, for example, in Prince William County where we live, in 2006, it was about $56,000 to $60,000 was the average median household income. And as of 2022, it was over $120,000, which means that it doubled. The average median household income doubled. Just that one fact alone should tell your staff that if your income is not growing in the same way and the same rate, you're behind the curve. And so it really does, you do need to understand that it is a numbers game and understanding that to keep up with inflation and cost of living expenses in your area and all of those things that go into pricing, I think it's important to kind of understand that. But what it really is, pricing is it's and James, thank you for sharing that. It's really about accurate calculations, right? So we have to do calculations of our expenses, and every business is different. So we talked today about the different pricing methodologies, and one of the pricing methodologies I know that salon owners and stylists use a lot is what we call competitive pricing technique, which is not the most effective when you're talking about premium beauty services. When you're talking about premium anything, competitive pricing is not necessarily the best way to price. Maybe premium pricing, which is where we use different strategies. There's about 6 or 7 different pricing strategies. There's more really, but about 6 or 7 key pricing strategies where people can penetrate marketplaces when they're starting new businesses, when they're trying to run promos, or trying to do all those kind of things. I hear a lot of emotional conversation and chitter chatter on the groups like BBR, where people are saying things like, if you discount, it's bad, or, you know, they're very judgy of those kinds of things. Pricing is nothing more than a mechanism that controls supply and demand. So if you really think about it, it's just having a supply of something, and what we have, our commodity is service. So I mean, we have products too, but service is what we're really selling. And demand of those services is it needs to be trackable and measured, so that we need to calculate those things. And if we can calculate demand properly, so some of the questions and some of the KPIs, which is what we talked about last week, some of the performance metrics like productivity, how booked out are you? Do you have a wait list? What is your new client traffic metric? Do you have any redos? These are kind of these metrics that when you read these and calculate these, it gives you a really fair understanding as to an individual's performance. But more importantly, right, Andrew, like you're the performance king there, but really outside of performance, what we're really tracking is we're trying to determine what the demand level for that person is. And so not only do we have to calculate demand with those type of metrics, but we have to talk about materials that it takes to do the services, right? As we know, costs have gone up significantly. So not only do we have to calculate demand with those type of metrics, but we have to talk about materials that it takes to do the services, right? As we know, costs have gone up significantly. So not only do we have to calculate demand with those type of metrics, but we have to talk about materials that it takes to do the services, right? Okay, now it's not there anymore. Okay, good. I was hearing an echo. I'm sorry. I was hoping that I was not busting anyone's eardrums. Calculating your materials is really important, and we have to talk about cost per application. There's apps now and programs like Vish, and if you don't use programs like Vish, you can use other programs. You can do it manually, but Vish just makes it easier. And so when you're and I'm not doing any plug for Vish, they don't pay me anything. Okay, I'm just telling you that there are very clever methodologies now where you can start to calculate what we call your cost of goods. And so not only do we have to calculate your consumables, so what you're using to do the service, but also what you're doing with your selling. And when you look at a P&L, that's something that you can really look at, right, Chris? So really to get very specific about that P&L when you talk with your accountant as well to look at the cost of the materials and what it costs for you to do things and run business. That has to be built into the service price. It can't just be left to chance, like, okay, we're going to set it, how do we set the price, right? What are the components of it? And we'll talk about it, and I'll bring some of those up tonight, and I'll share with you the 10 components of it. You also then have to track skill demands and certifications as well. So if somebody is maybe finished the Masters of Balayage program, so if they finish that certification, they spent 6 weeks or 8 weeks doing that, how does that play into pricing as well? Like when somebody advances their skill certifications, that needs to be shared. How do you share that? What is happening in your company where clients are really understanding what you guys have? So social media, advertising, marketing can't just be about selling services. It really is about communicating the expertise that your company has as well. Definitely with the higher levels, the top producers and things like that. It's harder to do it with juniors, but that's why we keep the junior prices lower and give them a little bit more time to do it as well, right? All right, so then we also have to have a strong understanding of our demographics, which we talked about, what your service offerings are, what are the descriptors of those service offerings, meaning because we're selling, right? We set a price on something, but do you even understand what you set a price on, right? So do we set a price on, are you defining? It's like Amazon. I was talking about this tonight or today. When you look at Amazon, when you shop on Amazon, the reason Amazon is so successful at selling things is because you get to see they have taken care of the entire buyer's experience in a way that hones right into exactly what you need to know about the product to make the decision in a split second. What are we doing in the salon world that we are able to do that for our customers? How are you using your platforms to do that? There are so many business owners that I talk to that honestly don't even have menus. They don't even have pricing menus. And I'm not judging. It's a judgment-free zone. I'm not saying that you have to have a service menu, but in my opinion, humble opinion, that if you are selling different types of categories and different types of departments of service in your salon, wouldn't you want to convey what that is in a beautifully branded pricing suite so that your team knows exactly what you're selling, your customers know exactly what you're selling, and you know exactly what you're selling? And all of the descriptors of those and categorizations are really important as well. And also we need to establish the workflow, timing allocations and all of that. So I don't know if you guys want to throw in anything before I jump into the 10 components, guys. Is that okay if I jump right in, or so I'm trying to keep it simple and light tonight? Keep going. All right. Anybody have a question? Just shoot it out. Please just type it up and they'll let me know if there's a question. Okay. Okay. So in my opinion, these are 10, as I studied pricing, as I've studied business in other arenas. And I love studying that. It's something that's really just drives me. I'm really excited about it. And it just completely turns me on to understand how people do these sort of things. First component that I would tell you, and you can treat this like homework, a homework list if you'd like. And I'll share this list. I shared this list with with a post that we made about the class yesterday. I'll share it again after this class so that you guys can see the list. But first, it's get clarity about your service categories and service descriptions. Just like if you're hiring and you're staffing your team, you have to get really clear about your job descriptions and the job roles and the job responsibilities, and narrow down in your recruitment process how you're going to fill that in. You just don't randomly hire just to kind of randomly fill in people randomly in your business. It's a hit or miss type of exercise if you don't do that. So like your pricing, you need to get very clear. So what I would suggest, and we have a spreadsheet that we will be sharing at Mentor and Masters this year. We're gonna we've actually deviated Mentor and Masters just a little bit from being all about making and creating and training educators, but really we're about adding a lot of salon business in it as well. James, are you signaling to me something? You okay? What does that mean? Okay. I was like, what? Okay. Mentor Masters, we're actually going to be adding some other elements to it. Salon business elements. Pricing spreadsheets is going to be one of them. I think it's really, really important for everyone that comes to Mentor Masters to have this. And we're going to walk through the exercise of creating your own service list. So it starts by doing that. If I ask you, if I was your coach and I was asking you, and Andrew, I think you would agree, and Derek too, is have you gotten really clear about the services that you're offering, what they're called? Have you categorized them properly? Meaning when you are sharing a brochure, and I should have brought my brochure. I think I have my brochure here. Let me grab it. Thought I had it. I don't. In the menu that you have, you're going to have certain categories. So like all the hair design categories, all the color categories, all the fashion color categories, all the texture service categories, add-on services, makeup, all of it is categorized. And when you are that organized, it's going to help your customer find the right service that they need. And in doing that, you're going to be able to narrow down and deliver the services in just a really beautiful way. So get really clear about your service descriptions and the service categories. Okay. Hold on. Sorry. What am I doing here? Okay. 2, develop, you want to make sure that when you create the categories, you want to establish your expertise. So for example, if you have a category under haircuts, you're going to call it curly girl specialty cuts. Let's say you specialize in curly, you went and spent a couple $1,000s on a curly girl certification. In doing that, you need to offer that. I would even recommend that you create a separate rack card that's just something like this, like, something like this size, right? And you could create this card and that slides into your brochure that creates imagery and focus on, let's say, curly girl specialties. So in that curly girl specialty, you would offer it 2 or 3 different offerings, and you would have visualizations of the work that you've done that are knock down, drag out amazing. And then you maybe on the back of it, create a little price list about what that is and the timing that's allowed for that type of service, because there is a separate timing allocation when it comes to curly girl specialties. And then also maybe behind that at the bottom, say our curly girl specialists are, and then list all the people on your team. So this rack card can become a selling tool for your team and your front desk. Even when you're pricing, it makes it more special. It puts it on a platter, a silver platter, when you're presenting it. So that kind of presentation is going to be really, really important as well. Number 3, you want to make sure you have defined timing allocations behind all of your services, not only at the level of the training. So you have to have timing for training too. I know a lot of you are like, well, what if my team doesn't want to work faster? Well, none of them do. That's not the point. The point is we have to create ideal timing allocations that work for the service. And then in those ideal timing allocations, we are going to help our team achieve those goals through practice, through quicker techniques, through learning ways to navigate around the timing. It is not acceptable to take 8 hours to do a full foil. It just isn't. And we have to teach our team differently in order to do that. It's a waste of time, and it's also really terrible on your paycheck. So unless you are Guy Tang and you can charge $1,000 a ticket, but that's not the majority of us, right? The majority of us have to think about how we're charging for that. So those timing allocations are really important. We want to make sure that we are respectful of our clients' time as well. And so when we convey how long a service takes and for a certain price point, we need to, I know that there's this way of doing things right now in our industry where they're like, well, I charge per hour and, it's going to take as long as it's going to take. And it's kind of attitude-y, it lacks customer service as far as I'm concerned. We have to be cautious about that. We have to not allow our junior team members who honestly might only have 10 clients to speak of, have that kind of attitude about growing clientele. It's just not a good way. And as a leader, I'm very strong about when I correct those kinds of mindsets. It's not okay to think that I'm just going to charge by hour and I'm going to do whatever. Yeah, sure. That makes it simple. I like the hourly methodology, but the hourly methodology is really for you as the business owner and the stylist and the professional to create a targeted goal of what you want your pricing to achieve. But just to give your clients a random hourly fee, like I charge $150 an hour. If it takes me 8 hours, then so be it. That's not okay. That doesn't build trust, right, with your customers. That's not really trustworthy pricing, and clients will not come back to you. Trust me, I know. I've had this experience personally with some members of my team that it just wasn't successful. And no matter how talented they are, that they just couldn't grow their team. Number 4, you want to build in supply cost and cost of goods. So that's important to calculate. So you got to know if it takes you 5 scoops of lightener, 8 ounces of developer, 2 ounces of toner, and for a full foil. And then you put that on your spreadsheet, and that spreadsheet is discussed and taught and trained in a team meeting. And then it's stuck to the back of the back room so that they know, okay, I'm allowed for this full foil, 5 scoops of lightener, 8 ounces of developer, and 2 ounces of toner. It's all built into the price. But if I go over that, then what is the charge for that? That's an additional color fee, etc. And I'm sure Vish talks about this all day long. But that you have to create clarification within your team so that they are pricing it correctly. And they're not afraid of doing so. We have a tool called a guest carrier. It's a wonderful tool for pricing for junior stylists. It helps them through the consultation. It's an intake form, and then down on the bottom, it's a maintenance timeline. So we train our team members to design the maintenance service cycle. And then on the back of it, it's a laminated sheet. On the back of it is the entire service list with all of the pricing at that tier. We have 8 levels. And so at their level, that's the guest, we call it the guest carrier. That's the carrier that they would use. And I'm telling you, it's amazing how much clearer they can get for that. And so they understand what those are. And so you're not wasting either. So you're building in for that. 5, you need to create career and compensation scalability, tier level systems. If you are in a salon and you do not have a level system yet, I feel strongly about this one because I think that when you don't, you're limiting the growth of the individual. People will leave a company if they feel that there is nowhere for them to go. If you tell them that this is our prices and you have to live with it, and they're booked 6 weeks out and they're working 40, 50 hours a week, and then you have a junior over here doing something else, there's going to be a lot of internal competitiveness that is not going to be healthy for the environment or the ecosystem. So we are cognizant of those issues and make sure that we think our way through those components when we're doing that. When you are able to raise your prices, so there's two types of price increases that will happen in a salon generally. There's the salon-wide price increase that will happen from time to time. It doesn't necessarily need to happen every year, but it definitely needs to happen when expenses change significantly. From the pandemic, expenses have changed significantly. This is why Derek and James keep telling you guys, you have to raise your prices. We have to readjust. If your company, Chris, share this with me. We work with salon owners all the time together where Chris will work with them and look at their P&L and they're at a loss of $20 or $30 or $40,000. They're in the negative. The first place we go to is the pricing to solve that problem. The first place. There's a lot of other places too, but the first place is their pricing. We go back, we look at the loss. The loss is $42,000, let's say, hypothetically. We take that $42,000, we break it apart. Let's say they're open 260 days a year. We divide that by 260. We look at it what daily they're losing money on average. And then we talk about and we look at the pricing. We break it down per hour and we tell them per hour, you need to generate this much more. We look at the pricing and what they're already doing. And we look at the percentage of what that looks like. And then we increase prices and it takes away the negative immediately just from the price increase. That's how powerful pricing increasing will go. So Chris, I don't know if you have anything you want to add about that as well.
Yeah, actually, I do. Actually, there is an old, I say old because it was something I was studying in college 30 some years ago, but it's called a cost volume profit analysis. And it's something every accountant knows how to do. It can be done in multi-product environment, but it's something you can sit down and say, hey, this is something I need to take a look at. Take a look at what your cost is. You can add in a profit component. Say you want to make a certain amount of money. What kind of revenue do you need to bring in? And what is the cost, or excuse me, the price you can charge by product? So it's just something you can sit down with your accountant and say, hey, how can you figure this out? It's like I said, it was some 30 years ago I was doing it and still keep up with it. And it's certainly a service that we can help you with, but don't be afraid to charge more because it's putting money in your pocket and food on a kid's table. So go at it.
Alternative is you keep losing money. I mean, you can keep
Yep.
doing that wrong, but that's not what we want for you, right? We don't want that for you.
Right. So too many owners think that they are a charity lately because they feel, well, you know what? You have a responsibility for your business, and that comes first because everything comes under that. The owner's salary, the employee salaries, all those other things. So the business is the most important thing because without it, nobody gets a salary.
We do not want the cobbler's kids to go barefoot.
Well, that leads to number 6, which is that you consider income. And so when we talk about pricing, when somebody says, well, Nikki, how do I price a full foil for a tier 2? You know, so how do you come up with that number? Well, there is a formula to that. And the formula is in your area, a tier 2 will be working with you how long, right? So let's say a tier 2 will be working maybe 2 years or 3 years or some benchmark around that range. And at a tier 2 or level 2, you want them to generate in your demographic, let's say $28,000 a year or $30,000. So you want that income average. Average, you create that number of what they have. So if you're paying 45% commission, then you would figure out what the gross total revenue is of what that person needs to be generating in total. Then from there, you do a math equation where you divide it by how many days they work and then how many hours they work per day. And so you get what they call an average ticket per hour metric. And that average ticket per hour is going to be really important. And that can be readjusted back and forth to consider that that's what we call our base income or our base calculation. So let's say that calculation's at $42.50 an hour average ticket metric. So then you would see that average ticket. So if it takes them 2 hours of billable hours, it'd be $42.50 times 2. That's the base price. Then you add to it all of the other things. And so that's kind of the formulation. I know I'm trying to keep it light tonight, so I don't want to get too deep into formulations. But there is a way and a methodology around that. Yeah. So I think that somebody had a question about cost volume. Somebody just said, you want to, Chris Peden, don't know how you get on the chat, but what I said was cost volume analysis. You want to?
Yeah, it's basically all it is taking, here are all my costs. Here's how much I can do, and then determining a sales price based on that, or saying, here's my price, here's how many I have to do in order to come up with those.
Right. Keeping it light. Who said that? I'm trying to keep it light here, guys. This is my attempt at keeping it light.
All right. Well, maybe the CPA should shut up to keep it light.
So that leads me to, so not only do you have to build in for their income, but you also have to consider what the business's income is going to be as well. And so there's some different components that we put into pricing as well. Number 7 is that they need to understand the difference between what we call a billable hour and a basic hour. So basically an average minimum hourly wage. So you as a business owner have to give every single employee in your salon, in your company, whether they are a stylist or producing or not, a minimum hourly wage legally. That's required, right? Now, certainly you want to pay somebody more over time based on performance and necessity and all of those things and longevity. But from an income producer standpoint, you really do need to make sure that they are understanding that when you are producing revenue, they are producing at what we call a billable hour rate, and that is not the minimum hourly rate. And so they have to choose. So if they tell you, I want to work 32 hours a week, and those 32 hours, they are not calculating at billable hour rate every single hour, then they need to figure out how they're going to do that. So if they make decisions like, I'm not taking clients in between, I want to book out 5 hours for one chemical service. These are decisions that impact that billable hour rate. It impacts their income production level. And you as a business owner need to understand that so well that you can discuss that with them and coach them out of that mindset so that they're not emotionally connecting to things like, but I won't be giving good customer service if I rush, or something like that. We're not asking them to rush. We're not asking them to do a sloppy job. We're asking them to be efficient and productive. That's a really a different thing. Yeah. So teach them what a difference between a billable hourly rate is. Let me use an attorney or an accountant. When you work for a firm, accountants, right? You get on the, and there's a level system, right? You're either a junior accountant or you're a mid-level or you're a partner or you're a whatever level, right? And so there's all these different levels in law firms, in accounting firms, in other things, that these are service providers. We are a service provider. We just provide beauty services. It's a little bit different, but same thing. And so when we are producing, we should be producing at what we call a billable hourly rate, which is equatable somewhat to their average metric per hour, average production per hour. So I'm not diving too deep into that, but you guys get the idea. If you want to know more about that, then for sure sign up for the class. The class that we gave today, it was live today, but you can certainly watch the recording of it. And when you buy that class, it's $99. And when you get that class, we also give you the original 6-hour version. So super ambitious. You can watch the whole damn thing if you'd like and learn all about it. So number 8, make sure that you understand how to build in the profitability layer. So if you want 10% profit on your services, you got to build that into the pricing. If you want a 6% profit layer, you got to build that into the pricing. But keep in mind that whatever profit layer you build into your services is going to be split in a commission with your team. So you're going to have to probably up it a little bit more than that, because you're probably going to have to give 4.5% of it to your staff if you pay 45%. So just again, think about what the profit layer is as well, and consider that and adding that to your. So let's say let's go back to the full foil exercise. 4250 times 2, which is what, 80 something dollars. I don't know how to do math, but let's see, 80 something dollars. And then so out of that 80, Chris, help me out here. What is 4250 times 2?
85.
Okay. And so then you have your 85 as your base price for income. And then you build to it a cost of goods. Let's say the cost of goods is $26. I don't know what your cost of goods are, but let's say it's $25 or $26. You add that into it. And then you have to add your profit layer of, let's say, 10 or 12 or 15%. And you add that into it. So now you come up with a reasonable price of what a full foil should be at a tier 2, which means then your scales, when you jump up your levels, you need to be, in my opinion, at minimum 10% in between every scale or in between every level. I think sometimes these $2, $3 jumps in between each level is not big enough. It doesn't give enough to give a raise. And if you're going to do a price increase, you have to make it worthwhile. You have to make it effective. You have to make it financially successful for everybody. I'm not saying, rake them over the coals. That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting that you cover your expenses and you build in profitability on top of that. Number 9, establish a baseline in your service prices that cover your expenses. You got to know that. So this is Chris all day long. So you're going to get a P&L, right? Talk to your accountants. Say, what are my expenses, right, Chris? I mean, you might want to come off mute on this one. You're going to look at that. You're going to say, I need to, all of our expenses out of, let's say you make $1 million and your payroll expense is 52%. Yeah, don't we all wish sometimes? 52%, and our other expenses add up to 40%. That's a nice healthy ratio. That means you build in for some profit on top of that, right, Chris? Anything to add to that?
Yes, exactly. It's normally when I take a look at someone's financials, I want to know, okay, so what's the industry standard here, and then can do a comparison. So if you're doing better than that, hey, keep rolling with it, keep doing it. If you're not, talk to Nikki, attend her class, come out to Mentors and Masters. We'd love to have you. But really, it's sit down and look at your numbers. There's an old adage when I was in the corporate world: what gets measured gets managed. So you keep track of those numbers, know where you are, so that you know exactly what needs to change. And then if you're looking at it, says, I don't know what's going on here, happy to chat with you. So I'm around, and Nikki says, hey, you're talking to people. I'm salute and say, yes, ma'am, I'm talking to people.
Thanks. So guys, I hear a lot of people say, know your numbers, know your numbers, know your numbers. Well, sometimes we don't know what we're looking at. Sometimes we can look at numbers until we're blue in the face and we're like, what the hell am I looking at? Right? So here's what you really need to look at. Here's what you really need to see from a standpoint of your P&L and your pricing and how those correlate. Is you need to see what your expenses are in totality. What are the percentages of all of your expenses? Your payroll expenses are a separate bucket. That's a separate thing. Your payroll taxes and your payroll, keep that in a separate bucket. Know what that know at the end of the year where your payroll expenses land in comparison to your total gross revenue or your total gross receipts. And then outside of that, look and see what your total expenses are and how are you managing those expenses. And by the way, if those expenses are up, you need to change your pricing. It is nothing more than a calculated formulation to just do that. Stop feeling emotional about it. I very rarely talk to people who are emotional about price increases that they say anything numerical to me. It's all, well, my customers are going to be mad and I feel so bad and my customers are, you've heard it all. You've heard it all. And so we don't want to get into that. But
Nikki,
the fact is,
so let's talk about this a second. We got a couple minutes. So emotion, we're in an industry that's based on emotion for some reason. I guess 99% of stylists are empaths. I guess, I don't know, right? But ultimately, when we're running a business can't be run on feelings or emotions. It's got to be run on the numbers, which Chris obviously said, and you've said, Nikki, but I run into so many situations still to today, no matter how many times we tell people you can't do that, they'll base on a competitor. They'll base on, oh, I don't want to raise my prices because I'm afraid my customers might not like me. Things like this. So like we really need to know, like you said, the numbers. Put that emotion out of the business, because if emotion gets into the business, you're not running the business and the business isn't running itself. Neither one. You're just messed up somewhere in the middle. So you need to get that straight. Check out Chris or Nikki's class.
Yeah, real quick story on that. When we were at my son's baptism, my dad is a controller was like $1 billion company, and my in-laws are my father-in-law was a corrections officer. And when my dad was talking about dealt with $1 billion in transactions, my mother-in-law said, "Oh my gosh, doesn't it worry you to deal with that numbers?" He just looks there and goes, "It's just a tool. When you are looking at these financials, this is just a tool. This is yours to use to determine how your business is doing. That's all it is."
well,
Take the emotion out.
business owners feel emotional about the numbers too. You know, when they look at the numbers, they feel emotion if they're having a loss. They feel emotional if they don't have control of it. Just like a lot of things. So what I'd like to encourage is when we feel emotion, I want you to add emotional intelligence after it. We want emotional intelligence. We don't want negative, right? So let's learn to decipher between the two and know when that's happening. Emotional intelligence is necessary to lead well, but running a business certainly does not need to have any negative emotion in it. Especially if it's replacing knowledge or understanding. So we need to make sure we stay clear on the facts and go from there. And number 10 is you need to study your demographic. Inflation is impacting your people. Understand how their cost of living needs to go up as well, and explain this to them. And so these are the 10. There's so many different components to pricing, but really, if you think about it, these are 10 key components that really go into pricing and how it helps you navigate through doing your exercises. And if you go to that class that we taught today, and I'll share again the link again when I post the 10, is that you'll get a spreadsheet, and that spreadsheet is the worksheet. I don't want you to. I hate to say the word spreadsheet because it scares people, but it's a worksheet for you to create your service categories, for you to do all of this: your cost of goods, your timing allocations, your names and descriptors of your services. The tiers and the levels and the jumps and what percentage of jumps you're seeing and all of those things. And so this spreadsheet just really tries to help you kind of navigate through the work and keep it as simple as possible, because it really is pretty simple if you understand what you're doing in all of those regards. So I don't know, Andrew, you look like you were wanting to say something there. Haven't let you get a word in edgewise. Did you want to say anything? You were looking like you were saying something. You're good? Okay. So I want to talk about Mentor Masters just a little bit, if that's okay with you guys. BBR guys, are you going to be there? Andrew, can you? I can't hear you, Andrew. If you want to come off mute or anything.
I don't know what's going on with mics tonight, but hey, whatever.
Well,
Andrew's there.
Share the thing that I shared with you, or is there a way to do that? So November 6th and 7th, it's Mentor Masters. It's going to be a little bit different this year. We normally focus on Mentor Masters is really a leadership conference at the core of it. We really want to help you teach and create other leaders inside your company that will champion your brand and teach your brand, and help teach your people. Because let's face it, our biggest asset is our people, right? Our biggest asset. I didn't mean to say our biggest asses. Our biggest assets are our people. and what we want to do is we need to convert them as quickly as possible to becoming independent, revenue producing little superstars. That's the goal. That's the name of the game. And what is the magic sauce that makes that happen? And that's what Mentor Masters is about. We try to create an educational platform and teaching other educators inside your company. In my opinion, I think that education needs to be incredibly organized. It can't be nilly-willy and random and disorganized. There is on-the-job training, which is one way of training. There is internal formal training. There's formal training. There is a lot of different components to training and teaching people and hiring them. Let's face it, guys, in our industry, we are driven by state board curriculum, which is not near enough of what we need as business owners when we hire new people that come out of school. And so when they come out of school, it is the burden falls on our shoulders to train these people. Otherwise, we don't have well-trained people, right? Sometimes we get a little superstar, but I can tell you, we taught at Beacon this year, and it was about 175 new entries that are superstars in our industry. And they all said one thing to me. They're all like, we want to go and open our own business in a suite. What in the world? I just don't even understand that. And I even said to them, to be self-employed, you have to be self-sustainable. You have to have like clients, money, and all those things. And if you don't have anything like that, why do you want to be self-employed? And they were like, well, we don't know, so, and then here's the other thing they said, which I thought was fascinating. I think the day and age of the 2-year apprenticeship is dead. I think we have to look at how we implement training inside of our companies so that it won't take 2 years anymore. I'm sorry, but I wish it was, but I think we're going to be at a disadvantage if we don't change that and look at the way that's done soon. So at Mentor Masters, we're going to take a deep dive look into that. And we are also going to add an element of an HR system or HR series component into it as well. So I'm going to be adding that. So it is on top of a leadership conference, a business conference, so that we are going to be connecting a lot of that. You guys all know the amazing Gino is going to be there, but we also have Cole Thompson that's going to be coming in to talk about really incredible ways to create educational platforms inside your company, and how to turn training into profit. We have John Palmieri. We have Christopher Sume for public speaking. We have Sally Honesty, Patty Mead, and also the BBR guys as well. So we can't wait. And then we have Chris Peden that's going to be there, and a bunch of other people. But we're so excited. And we are offering BBR a really special discount. And James, I think, was supposed to share it on screen, but I think somehow he left the screen. So let me share with you what
Nikki,
it is.
PM me the link. I'll do it right now.
Can I just text it to you? Is that okay?
Do it in the chat.
In
the private chat in here.
Oh,
this
it's
way
on my
I can
phone.
share it up there right away.
It's in my phone. I don't have it.
Where's Iva when we need her?
Oh my God, there's Iva. Just a moment.
It's all right, guys. we'll do Nikki and I will do a short little blurb after this. I'll attach it to the video tomorrow, and we'll get you all the information for signing up for Mentors and Masters 2022, November 6th and 7th. Yes.
So really quickly, I want to tell you, we're offering a really big discount to BBR members. Iva and I talked about it, and we've decided, and Andrew, I'm going to totally let you. There's already a $100 discount until July 1 off the ticket. And also we are offering anyone from BBR, if they enroll in Mentor and Master, they get to choose any 2 of our classes for free. So even classes that we filmed or even new classes. So it's like, honestly, it's a no-brainer, guys. So make sure you reach out to Iva or me, and we can talk about it, and I'll post about it as well. All right, Andrew, I'm sorry. Please, the floor is yours.
He's
Andrew,
you got a James mic tonight.
Go to the bottom there. You see the microphone? Maybe try to hit that and see if it works.
Hear me? I hope you can hear me.
There it is. You got it. You nailed it.
I got it. I nailed it. Two things. And Nikki, you said something really important when you heard those 175, was it? People who newbies into the business who all want to, run their own business. In effect, and they want to be self-employed. In effect, when you're working for someone, you are that. I mean, you're just working within certain constraints. But you have, no one is stopping you from, when you have a system like you have in your business, and the system that Mentors and Masters teaches, an independent stylist can rise up without all the headaches of all the other things, and you can make more money. Really,
I think Andrew, Andrew okay? Andrew, I think it's super glitchy. Sorry. Can you share, Andrew, can you share that thought on my post that I'm going to do after the class? Yeah, I think it's silent now. We can't hear you. I'm so sorry, Andrew. I know this is a thing. Sorry. All right, so let me kind of wrap it up. I will post about that again. Thank you, Andrew. Can you, I'm going to post right after this class right on the BBR page. If maybe you can share your thought in writing, I would love to know what you were saying. I think it's important because I think that what I observed at Beacon was monumentally important. And I would love to share that with anybody that has any questions about it. But yeah, I know what you mean. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think what you were trying to say is that certainly we want them to be independent. We want them to be high functioning. We want them to be self-managing, even as employees. So I do understand what you're saying. Well, guys, thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you guys again.
Nikki, Chris, Andrew, thanks for showing. James, if
Thanks.
you're listening, thanks for coming. BBR 125, welcome everybody, and good night, everybody. And if you have any follow-ups, be sure to reach out for any of us here, obviously, on the BBR or Nikki's page or Chris, any of the above. Andrew also. Andrew's got his blog going out every week. Make sure you listen to it and definitely read it. Interesting this morning about Pat and Andrew.
Thank you, guys.
So good night, everybody. Great seeing you, and we'll see you next Monday on BBR.
Thank you, guys.